everyone. Morgan Naidu is an entrepreneur, executive, board member, public and motivational speaker, mentor, coach, martial arts expert, personal trainer. And his portfolio of companies addresses the key challenges that most businesses struggle with today, that being business solutions, ICT services, and telecommunications across the entrepreneurship value chain, with a very strong focus on lean startup, ideation, validation, and creation framework and design thinking. So welcome on board and welcome to the Bringle Talks. Morgan, I hand over to you. So we would like to hear about what you would like to contribute to this talk.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for having me, and glad to be part of something, contribution to society. And that's kind of my value and purpose in life these days. It's about sustainability. It's about creating shared value, collaboration, and being part of, momentous occasions like this really bodes well for recognition. And this is what we kind of need, going forward when we try to address societal issues, particularly when we're looking at unemployment. So today I was tasked by Chidiya, thanks from Bringle, for asking me to do the technology side. So my presentation today, can I share? Let me just, I do have a presentation, just a very quick one. Just wanna, share that. Can you see my screen?
Yes, Morgan.
Okay.
Please
good.
go ahead.
All right. So, sorry, I just want to change it to the other side. My apologies. Just want to. To display settings. Okay. Oh dear. Okay, I'm just going to keep it on the screen. Sorry if I'm looking away from the screen. All right, so today I want to talk around in line with unemployment, which is mission zero unemployment. I would like to speak from a technology point of view, and I do play quite a lot in this space in terms of how do we engage now that the digital is and technology is changing the world we live in, and for business and career opportunities. Because at the end of the day, while each one of us have a part to play in society, and when I say each one of us, I mean public sector, private sector, and communities. Communities also have a part to play in this. It's not just that, okay, government, let's change the curriculum, or business, we need to ensure that, yes, there are jobs created, but what is communities doing? And how do we, as business entrepreneurs, as the public sector also, adopt and make this a viable option that communities can also get involved. So, I mean, this was one of my favorite movies, Terminator 2, Judgment Day. I'm not sure you are all aware of that movie, and if you fall into my age group as well, phenomenal movie. Kind of give where a take on artificial intelligence, and but for me, I don't think it'll go this south where robots are actually now taking over humans, but it just gives you something to think about, where the world is going. I believe personally that our technology is advancing way too quickly for the world to catch up, basically. And this is my point that I'm trying to make, is that as a metaphor, if we don't look at how we can keep up with the technology and, how we can blend in our curriculum, our education, we're going to totally lose jobs against machines, and we're going to sit there and in the most simplistic terms is that machines and automation are actually going to actually do the work for us, where, at the end of the day, we don't need humans to eventually do it. So this is my take on that. If we're not careful, if we're not doing this right and thinking about the future, from a technology perspective and which plays such a vital role in where we headed, this may be the case that, a job, we may be sitting without jobs. So today's talk, very quickly, I just want to give a very big a recap on what's the fourth industrial revolution. For me, we were already in it. It's not a buzz term anymore. We are already in many years ago. And I'll show you the transition from the first industrial revolution to the fourth. Why is it so important right now? The impact. I'll touch on what I've actually spoke about. The challenges, and I'm going to give you from a South African context, and it could be also applicable in India and the rest of the world. When we look at first world countries, we are generally about 12 to 18 months behind from a technological perspective, first world countries. But how do we utilize that, promote that so that it can actually get to, from an unemployment perspective, creating the relevant jobs at the right time? And then how do we maximize that and embrace the fourth industrial revolution? So basically, the fourth industrial revolution, if we look at it, the journey in the late 1700s, it was the industrial revolution was driven by the steam engine. In the 1800s, if we look at Tesla, Edison, electricity, the light bulb was developed, the telephone, airplanes were being tested, and the gramophone and were invented. So, if you look at these two chunks, what they actually brought to society was such a big deal, particularly the train. The transportation was such a big development, in transporting whatever the case may be, materials or food into specific areas, or just traveling for business, started that whole industrial revolution. And when we move on to the 80s, we see the computers, the PC. While they were standalone, in the early 90s, they were client server, which started the whole, the database revolution. The internet started emerging, and that specific transition from the industrial revolution in the 1800s to the 1980s was such a big change. Was that because now, when we look at sales and from a business perspective and creating jobs and employment, we see such a big transition where there was a growth. There was a growth in society. There was growth where people started moving from more rural areas into the cities, metropolitan, and growing that specific base in terms of how the cities and countries started evolving. And then that obviously transitioned. But for me, is from a business perspective, is that now customers are getting more power. How are you driving sales? What are you doing to ensure that your business is thriving, number one? And number two, are you creating employment and getting that resources and skills so that you can actually, sell more of your products, help more in the communities, and then, grow your business to such an extent where you are actually collaborating with the public, private, and communities. So when we look at 4IR right now, we are gone beyond client server, and we're looking at innovations such as 3D printing, artificial intelligence, where we don't even have to press a button anymore. Things are just being done. When we look at Internet of Things, when we look at artificial intelligence, things are being calculated for us. So it's basically driven by the physical, digital, and biological worlds, where we transition. Before, it was just the physical and digital. But now it's gone beyond that. It's the biological world where we look at the impact on society and individuals. And I will touch on each aspect of that when I mention biological, because when you look at biological, it's maybe when you look at, to the extent, if I can put it into a specific context, where we look at Elon Musk's company and his Neuralink company, where they're implanting, chips into your brains so that they can understand, the thinking process, or if you can think about something, you can move a specific object through robotically with a specific arm or whatever the case may be. But that's obviously very futuristic, not too far from the future. But also, when you look at your devices, your watches, your rings that you wear that can track your body temperature, can track your sleeping patterns, the transition in terms of where we're actually going. And that really bodes well for understanding people from a medical perspective. How do we help people live longer? If that's what you want to do, going into the future. So, but when we look at all these cool things that are coming out, and the fourth industrial revolution that are bringing, what is the impact for work? Technology now is everywhere, and this is based on a 2-year-old data, which still is relevant. My source was from Deloitte study that was taking place. Technology is everywhere. Jobs are vulnerable to automation. If we look at the UK and the US and China particularly, when you look at the threat in terms of the people versus the technology landscape in China, 77% of the jobs are actually vulnerable to actually losing to technology. So what are they actually doing right now? Completely new jobs that are coming out. But when we look at 65% in the world, new jobs are being created. But are schools ready for this? Is the curriculum ready to ensure that this is actually doing, and how would that then impact the employment that they are, for sure that what they're studying right now is going to help them get jobs in the future, because technology are going to replace them. So, and then diversity, it is definitely creating diversity and generational change, particularly when we look at Africa. And I'll speak from an Africa perspective. By 2050, 25% of the global population are going to need new jobs, and that's going to come from Africa, because Africa is apparently now the new frontier. And globalization, internationalization, multinational strategies that enterprises are developing are all changing the game in terms of what new jobs are actually gonna, and how they do business with each other in different countries around the world. How do you reduce the cost to play with AI, cognitive computing, robotics? So $500,000 US in 2008, and the cost of actually delivering on a specific process or a specific job is costing that much less today. So as you as a company, now you take a step back, and you as an entrepreneur, what would you do? In 2008, you were spending $500,000 to complete. This is just an example I'm giving, right? $500,000 to complete a job, right? But now it costs, through technology, it costs $22,000. So that's almost what, 28,000 less, or 228,000 less to actually do that job. Sorry, my math is off today, but you can do the math there. I mean, obviously you would want to use technology, but now what happens during that to your specific employee that you are supposed to be creating jobs for getting the economy going? What happens now when we look at the fourth industrial revolution taking over? And obviously we are going to have a global workforce where right now, globally, I'm sitting here in the presentation on Zoom, talking to the world, that's globalization. And, and it's so cost effective. I'm just using my internet connection, a camera on my PC, and it's basically a cost effective way to get my expertise to the world. So this is what the future of work that we need to be concerned about. And I say concerned is because when I look at my own country as well, it's really, where are we transitioning from a curriculum perspective that from studying to actually getting to unemployment. And we all know about big data, the tsunami of data that's coming in. How are we going to manage that? Do we put a lot of more emphasis on data, than actually, and who's going to be actually processing that particular data? AI, or we're going to have a human to do it? So tech is actually fueling, and this is just leveraging on, I'm going to go through this quickly, leveraging on what I just spoke about. Cybersecurity is going to become very key, augmented reality, big data, which I just spoke about, autonomous robots, 3D printing. I mean, so cost effective. I can build a house right now at less than 1/3 of the price by just 3D printing material and getting the house, to scale, and within precision. Autonomous vehicles, Tesla, I mean, we're all experimenting around that. Cloud computing, which really started the game in the late 90s, early 2000s. Internet of Things, which is also, collecting that data, how we automating things and making it easier. So so basically, when I talk about the 4R, it's also cyber meets human. It's everything that gets integrated, customized, and smartly automated. All right. So from an industry perspective, let's go through a few examples. When I look at agriculture, we already have drones, the drones that are flying around monitoring the fields. Compare it to traditional agriculture. Water management. When do we start the sprinklers? When do we know that we are having a drought in season? How do we preserve water? How do we collect rainwater so that we can manage that and time release water into the specific fields or acres of field? Soil monitoring. What is currently happening in the soil? Do we have pests? How do we manage that process? And machines for routine operations during harvesting. How can we precisely harvest without influencing the environment in a bad way? When we look at another industry example, and that's a smart person. So key for your insurance companies. Your insurance companies want all the money from you. They want to take the money from you, right? So what they're going to do, they're going to give you smartwatches. They're going to give you a free iPhone. Let's track how healthy you are, how healthy you're eating. Are you sleeping well? Are you living a healthier lifestyle? So you can keep on paying those premiums. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's business, but it depends on what the customer enjoys. I mean, I enjoy all these gadgets. I have my smartphone, I have a smart watch, I have a Bluetooth tracker, I have a smart glasses that I'm actually using as well. So it's also tracking and keeping you healthy while experimenting on the healthcare markets. Smart construction, very key. And this is where I think really the interest in IoT actually started, and automations and cost reduction, operational efficiencies, is looking at the supply chain and how do we minimize the cost in the supply chain? How do we improve our suppliers getting the products to us? How do we manage that the marketplace in how we approach our customers? So a lot of the technologies now is being implemented. I mean, if you look at us in a country us as a country in South Africa, Take a Lot, which is similar. It's an online platform which is similar to Amazon, and they really changed the game. Really came in, changed their supply chain. They had mergers and acquisitions with certain companies and integrated everything. And also using trackers and it's so efficient. I literally get my items in 2 days. And if I need to return it, the delivery guy is here picking up the item and taking it back and then refunding my money within a week. It's those type of things that that technology is actually changing in the industries. And then just going back to you as in healthcare, as a patient. You have all the service portals now. You can book your hospital authorizations on an app. Your doctor can actually track you through your phone before you even come in to the office. I mean, to his office, or even going into the hospital. So it's all these different things that technology is making better to improve and make our lives convenient. But now when I look at these, right? So just let me go through some other examples quickly. Transportation, we have Tesla, Uber changed the game in terms of, they don't even own cars, and we have a very efficient service. Vehicle tracking, driver safety, your banking, I don't even have to walk into the bank anymore, and there's a single view of the customer and what we're trying to do, where we have the app on our phone, we can use our app and do all our banking, everything on our app, and have that single view where we can push marketing elements to the customer. From a retail perspective, augmented reality, and this is pretty cool with smart glasses, where we don't even need to go into the brick and mortar store. Augmented reality, if the clothes are in front of us, we get a point of view of it, and then we can purchase it online for less than half the price it is in the store. And insurance, going back to what I spoke about, the wearable monitor sensors and safer habits of how insurance companies make premiums off you. So the importance of that is that as we transition, from mechanical, electrical, internet to digital, you can actually see the shifts in changes in terms of why is it so important for business. Is that one, when we look back in the days, it empowered corporations. Corporations would go in, they would say, here's our product, buy it. But now when we look at 4.0 and why this is so key, is that, yes, it is blurring the lines between physical and cyber and digital, but it's empowering people, right? So now let's look at it from the other perspective, right? It empowers people because, one, I get access to social media. I can go for word of mouth and look at your I come to you as a company. I can go online and do so much research on your product and say, okay, I don't want to buy your product. That's the amount of power that I have now with as a customer in the world, right? So the customer focus now is that how do you shift that? Is that now that the customers have this amount of power, how are you shifting that into saying that, okay, we will now help you in your goals, right? The customer goals. So customers now, they want to be bigger, part of something bigger. And this is so key. And this is why I love this topic, is that mission zero unemployment. And that goes back to your sustainable development goals, number 8, right? And that goes back to sustainability. If we look at customers want to be helping the world now. They want to be part of sustainability. They want to take out the trash in the ocean. They want to put zero carbon emissions. They want to buy electric cars, so they want to do some bit. So what do we do now, and why is it so important for us as a business, and how the way we think about creating jobs, right? Is that how are we helping the customer in our business to achieve their goals, to achieve their life goals? Because at the end of the day, once we attach our sustainability, our purpose in life as a business, and we create shared value. And when I say creating shared value, is that how are you helping your suppliers? How are you helping your building communities? And then how are you helping your customers, get their goals so that they can actually be part of something bigger? And then once they realize that, hey, wait a minute, I'm part of something bigger, I'm going to buy more of these guys' products. Can you see that cycle that's actually happening? Because you're helping your suppliers. Maybe it is that you can give them access to your supply chain or your technology. You're educating the customers. You are creating shared value in the sense that you are making products better sustainably, and then the customers, it is a cycle where it moves from not only shareholder value or creating shared value, but system value, where you're also helping the world and contributing to sustainability. So if you can actually take technology, the 4th industrial revolution, where it blurs physical and digital, and help customers and move that into more creating shared value, it empowers everybody. So that's how now our shift in our mindset in terms of how we're actually going to create jobs. So what happens in the impacts from a business perspective? So we improve customer service. If physical products are enhanced with digital capabilities, connectivity and innovation enable and require collaboration and partnership. So who are you collaborating? I feel competition is old school now. The way we're moving forward is let's collaborate. How do we make better products? How much are we innovative? You can use my supply chain as long as you deliver on key products, on quality products, or assisting and helping my customers in their societies, you know. And workers are becoming free from automated jobs and can engage themselves from solving complicated business issues, right? So why I want to make that as key is that, yes, technology is coming in. They're making it, they're taking away redundant jobs. So say, for example, call center, you have robots or chatbots, right? So you call in the call center, there's chatbots. Now, imagine a human keeping doing that day in and day out. So what they're doing is you're taking away redundant jobs, replacing it with technology. Now you're giving a human person as an employee more valuable jobs to do, because now it requires more creativity, more human skills to think and solving more complicated business problems. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to be doing something that's, you know, day in, day out, the same thing over and over and again. And that's the level of insanity. I'll probably go insane. You know, I'm the guy that solves problems. I want to solve problems. I want to think out the box. I want to be creative. And you know, so that's the way we need to think around 4IR when it comes to business. So when I also mentioned about the public sector, public-privates that need to come in, what does government need to do? And this is a South African, from a South African perspective, where all the government units are actually currently involved in 4IR. And you know, we need to be more open and flexible in terms of knowledge. But first and foremost, and I'm sure you hear news about South Africa, we are struggling a bit. You know, there is a bit leadership issues that we are struggling with. Unemployment is the highest in the world, I believe, and in South Africa, and our education system is actually decreasing year by year. So this is what the government needs to do in terms of what do we need to start with first, right? So we need to be open, flexible, and knowledgeable, right? And we need to be agile enough, because the rate that the government is bringing all these technologies, yes, we're putting money in, but it's not sustainable. We do have a first world country. I mean, we operate close to a first world country as South Africa. You know, our banking system is phenomenal in the world if you look at the technology aspects. But I mean, it's not going to be sustainable in the long run if we're not focusing on the education part and unemployment part. We need to deliver a service delivery that's better and create opportunities. We need to promote more trade outside our trading blocks. To be honest, quite now, our trading between the rest of Africa is actually quite too traditional. It's too old school for the way we're actually going. You know, we need to have the first mover advantage. New technology also helps government in modernizing effective organizations and functions. And while we're slowly getting there, I believe that we are putting too much focus on technology, then focusing on the basics where we look at education. How do we build to get to that? So from a society and individual perspective, and now this looking at, so we looked at the government, society, communities, is, you know, and I think it also needs to come from business, is that how do we make education and various information easily accessible? You know, so we are experimenting with, you know, cheaper phones and giving internet freely in certain areas, making that available, just things that we do. And that sort of actually leads to better lives. People look for information, they're actually clued up. You know, there's certain programs that we can link between the internet and offer online opportunities for studying, you know, sponsorships, studying through free internet, and, you know, getting course content from Udemy, for example. And there's also online jobs. I mean, Amazon is actually, when they started the Amazon and they built their data centers here, created online jobs, remote working from home. So you could actually be on your phone and still work. You know, it's stuff like that that's actually coming. But also the key is that now Amazon also is going to be opening directly in South Africa and operating the e-commerce platform. So that's another opportunity that the society and individuals can look at, where there's creating shared value and bringing the technology in. So some of the challenges that we're struggling at the moment, and I presume this is also for the rest of the world, is high unemployment rates, right? It's really, really bad in South Africa. It's and COVID didn't feel sorry for us. So you know, it went straight through Bram. I mean, we're sitting at a very, very high unemployment rate. And people are not ready and skilled. And that's, in all honesty, in South Africa, we're not ready for the changes that are coming. Technology is coming in very, very quickly. The inability to change, people don't want to change. And that's the change management that comes in. We are a very labor-intensive country, and a lot of jobs have been lost. And what's saving the jobs is unions. And I'll give you a perfect example, is that Pick n Pay opened a cashless, you know, those cashless, when you go out, you check out cashless. Some of the unions came in and destroyed all those machines. So that wasn't even tested, you know? So they say, no, we're losing jobs because of technology. So they destroyed the machines. So how do we have something like Amazon Go in this country, where we just walk in and we swipe and we walk out? You know, for those who are privileged enough to have that, they can't have it, you know? So it just, but I don't want to say that, you know, it's something wrong. You know, people's jobs are very important because they need to put food on the table, and that's the hierarchy of needs. But what I'm trying to say is that how do we progress if we can't enjoy benefits like that? There's lack of infrastructure, and inequality is going to grow further and further if this carries on. So how do we maximize? And I'll just go through this quickly. It's developing skills, and education is definitely a key factor, and digital and soft skills. So we have a physical, cyber, digital, and soft skills. And I'll touch on the soft skills now. And another key is the partnerships across all stakeholders, is business, government, and society. And I'm just going to use myself as an example, is that when I started computer science, I was very hard skills. I was a coder. I programmed in Java. I was programming in C++. Yeah, Basics was my first one I used. So basically, when I started, I had hard skills. I had PC literacy. I had programming. I'm very analytical, consulting, research, audit, risk, and advisory. But now when we look at the transition and what we need to do and how do we change this because of technology, is that we need to now look at more of the soft skills. And creativity is one of the most important things there, because we are doing humans, when we do that, we do humans a huge favor, and we're not favor, but if I could say, is that we give them the opportunity to actually make use of what we're supposed to be. Because us as humans, we are creative. You know, we are problem solvers, right? We can't just go in and do menial, redundant work every single day, right? That's not what humans need to do. So the one benefit on the one side is that, yes, let the technology do the hard skills, let them be the chatbots, let them do the redundant work that they're supposed to be doing, and on the human side, let us be more creative, let us be more entrepreneurial, you know, let us solve problems. And that's what we need to be, how the curriculum now needs to be focusing. So when I look at this, I'm an ENTJ, you know, extrovert. So I recently focused a lot on spirituality, which is very key for me. And that really helps in my leadership, which brings across servant leadership. There's a lot of motivation. So you can communication, self-awareness, entrepreneurship, emotional intelligence is such a key aspect in business, and how students need to actually be when they're actually studying and moving into the working world and having that willingness to learn. So you can see the differentiation with the hard skills and soft skills and where the world is changing to now. So when we look at this in terms of the partnerships, so partnerships between public, private, and communities are influencing your curriculum, influencing approaches and teaching and to learning, and new skills and competencies. So technology is bringing in new skills. We don't know what the next job is in the future, to be honest. So when we look at the new skills and competency required, and when I look at how I deal with companies around the world, I mentor, I coach, I do consulting globally in different countries. And this is what I found, take away the technology, the technology is there for me to get to communicate, right? Critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and teamwork, complex problem solving, creativity is one, emotional, global awareness. I need to know globally what is happening in each country, financial, economic, business, entrepreneurial, literacy, civic, computational thinking, judgment, making decisions, cognitive flexibility. So it's having all these soft skills. These are the new skills that are actually going to be required when we're dealing globally. And, factoring now that we're in the fourth industrial revolution. So, so what can you as yourself do, and you as a student, say possibly as a student, right? Continuously update skills and teach yourself about new technologies and new industries. There's a lot of free online training. I mean, me as an entrepreneur, I relied heavily on YouTube. Financial modeling, I taught myself financial modeling before I done my MBA and things, and obviously I did learn a lot from school and things, but a lot I use YouTube, free online training, skilling, upskilling, reskilling. So, you need to have digital skills, e-skills. How do you use a computer because of the communication, the globalization? I'm here on YouTube, on Zoom, preparing for workshops, for workforce, for jobs that are not invented yet. Are you that flexible enough to know what is the next job, or what does the next customer require that you are helping to make that sale as a business, or you as a customer? What is your purpose? Where are you going to next? And how are you preparing yourself? Are you flexible? Are you agile enough to make sure that that you are currently up to date with what's happening in the world today? So it's all about agility and being flexible and knowing what skills or sometimes going with the flow is actually quite good, because this is where your career path would actually take you. So if I look at it across the board, have a conducive and supportive policy environment, and that really comes from business and private sector, state support instruments and incentives, also government and business. What are you doing now that you know that certain jobs are redundant? What are you doing to create a more valuable workforce? Research and development and innovation environment, and that really comes from the public and private sector. Do a lot of research and development in terms of what's the next big thing that's coming. Are we flexible enough to ensure that we are ready? Is our workforce ready? Particularly if you're looking at a banking segment. Public-private partnership models and instruments. And I would also like to include the communities there, because it's not just public and private. Don't rely solely on the government. As we know, sometimes they're not fully there for us, but also involve communities and societies. The more involved they are, the more purposeful that they would feel, and that they have a goal and sustainable, and help you embrace that. So embracing forward, the question is, therefore, it's not if, but and when. It's already here. The fourth industrial revolution is already here. I gave you the pick and pay example, that they tried. While labor incentives, union-driven, emerging economies may be tempted to simply oppose the adoption of technologies born out of the fourth industrial revolution, and ever-increasing efficiencies in production from established economies, would result in less foreign investment and slower economic growth. So that's one important aspect that I found from a technological perspective, is that get involved and not be left behind, because when we are left behind, we generally don't get foreign investments into the country. And that's where we also don't grow. And like previous industrial revolutions, I believe, in my opinion, more jobs can be created. But if we're doing it in the right way, from policy driven, from starting with education, and understanding, being flexible, being agile, and promoting whatever, what's the next big thing that's coming? How do we make everything operationally efficient in the terms of how the economy operates? And then I just wanted to highlight one thing is ESG also is a very key in corporate firms, and that's an economy, society, and governance. And ESG wants to look at their return on investment, and that's also embracing 4R, where we can actually integrate that into the business. So yeah, I hope I gave a very quick perspective on that. Thank you for letting me share. Yeah, it was very quick. I hope I didn't rush through it, but I hope it did give a nice perspective on where we currently are and why it's so important for where we currently are right now from a technology and 4R perspective. Thank you.
Excellent. It is an amazing discovery, if I can say, the journey from competitiveness to collaboration. And we are all into the fourth industrial revolution time, and how to manage ourselves, how to...
Okay, so I have a question from Morgan. Morgan, considering the scenario, the way technology is changing very, very rapidly, especially we have seen in just last 2 years of COVID times, we have seen acceleration of 20 years in this 2 years time in terms of technology. I think the metaverse, blockchain, these were just names earlier, and probably not many people were even aware. And I have a belief, and is that whatever we were supposed to see that in 2050, we will actually see that as reality by 2030 today. I mean, but in spite of that, I sincerely believe that these technologies are just as a start of just a tip of an iceberg. And there are many more aspects which are going to come in. How do you see the world moving from the technology perspective? And especially when it comes to the robo-human world, wherein practically what I feel is that the jobs which are there in the local environment, the blue collar workers jobs, which we say typically in like hotels, you have a service, waiters, or people who are working in a maybe as a ground staff. So it will become like a completely humanless environment. And how do you see more technologies, and maybe what kind of technologies may evolve over a period of time? And what are the different aspects which a human being has to develop as a skill set to survive in this robo-human world?
Okay, that's.
I know it's a little tough question, but I'm just trying to, kind of understand. It's just a discussion right now. It's probably not a question, but
yeah. No, it's a very, very, very relevant question. Tough but relevant, and the reason why I say tough is because when we look back at 2015, and in an interview you're sitting and they're going to ask you, so in 5 years' time, where do you see yourself? Would you have said, okay, there's going to be COVID, and COVID really changed everything, so yeah, but I mean, look, in that 5 years, and when we hit COVID, our lives changed phenomenally, and when we look at from a technology perspective, working from home became the normal, and everyone needed to ready it. And I'm going to give you an example of what happened. I mean, my businesses struggled really badly in the first, I would say the first 8 months, until we reached lockdown 5. And, and I think people were just more scared than anything else, and not understanding the whole context. But I think afterwards, once they got used to the whole thing in 2 years, I mean, COVID ran, lockdown ran for 2 years, It's 2022 already. People started becoming more, open. And, we made drastic changes to our business from a process perspective. I didn't draw a salary for 8 months. My bank was calling me, I was in arrears on my bond. So it was struggling, things like that. But the processes that we did place in kind of worked. And, the sacrifices that we made as a business, as an entrepreneur, worked now, and we are actually doing pretty well now coming out of COVID. And the restrictions are relaxed. But just going back to your point in terms of technology, and it's technology really for us. It's doing wonders for the world, I believe. And I'm very pro technology. I believe, yes, whatever's currently happening, what's the next step, the metaverse, and there's a purpose for all that, and there's a purpose the way the world is actually going. And if you look at it beyond billionaires trying to make money like Facebook and stuff, social media was such a big game changer, whether it was from a political perspective, whether it is from a community perspective, socialism and capitalistic. If you look at the benefits of all the technology that came in at that point, why it came in at that point, so when you say it is transitioning quicker, I look at Moore's law. Moore's law is not valid anymore. Back in the days, they said that, the transistors will literally double every year. But now it's, at the speed of our computers are just phenomenally, what we try to achieve. I mean, well, if we can't go beyond a certain gigahertz limit, we, move to different cores. We're placing it at different cores, opening up more threads, and that's just going to more detail, and that's changing the game, and that's helping us deliver more data efficiently, collecting more data, how we structure unfiltered or unstructured data into structured data, and making it and packaging it into something that we can actually comprehend. And for me, and going back to your point, it really, in the last 2 years, I mean, if we take the 80s to the 90s, client server, from what a 4-hour now is doing, and with blockchain and things, and the level of computing power, quantum computing, you're right, 2 years, within 2 years, we reached such phenomenal, and we're getting there, we're going there. So sometimes, businesses use technology in terms of what they need and their business requirements, right? But I definitely feel that it is going to be a change, not 2050, we're going to see it sooner, in 2030. But what I'm scared about is that our curriculum, and this is going back to my presentation, our curriculum and the jobs that are being created are taking too long to keep up with that. And I feel that, in my opinion, we have the ability, we have the skills, we have the resources to make, to take this technology and make it work for us. Make it work in terms of in the sense that we can educate people, we can skill them, we can make them more flexible, we can make them more adaptable, so that we can grow with this technology. And then going back to your point, there's a whole lot of variables. The economy, for us in South Africa, right? Our leadership, government leadership, is very political, very, very political. And when you put variables like politics into certain things, it's going to impact on corruption, which is currently happening. This can be on the record because it's in the news. There's corruption. People only want to see, that they families grow, and who's in government or whatever the case may be. Our service levels have really dropped. Education has dropped. Unemployment is through the roof. So, and that is because of politics. So where do you draw the line now? How do you make this happen? Where now, and when you look at when I say, public, private sector need to get involved, but also communities, communities also make the economy, so what are you as someone as a customer or someone in society, what role are you playing now? You also want to be part of climate change. What role are you playing from a community perspective? So yeah, for me, technology is definitely going at a phenomenal pace. I don't think we are keeping up with it. And I think there's a whole lot of other variables that are coming into play, like politics as one example. And then going back to, it depends on the industry. There's certain processes that you need to look at. What are your business requirements? Looking back at the restaurant industry, for example, you can have your different payment methods. Sometimes we don't use cash anymore. We use our phone to tap to pay for our meals, whatever. But then, you can't let go of waiters and waitresses. That's the human component that we need from an empathy perspective, where we're serving people in the restaurant to give them that whole feel. So there is that distinction. Technology is not the be all and end all, right? Technology is a tool that we use to improve efficiencies, to improve convenience, to improve the way we do things, right? So it's all about people, processes. And once we get people, processes, and businesses right, then we know where we can fit in the skills element, the training, the education, and then how we use technology to better, So yeah, I hope that kind of answers the question, but that's my opinion on where I feel. But then again, I'm also talking from a South Africa perspective. India could also be. I've been to Bangalore, and Bangalore's tech was just on another level as well. That was just, it was great. So there's different variances and different variables that come into play when you look at different countries and such. But yeah, very good valid points you made there, and you're right. I'm definitely going to see a lot of traction before 2050. 2030 is on the agenda, but I mean, look at it. We're only 8 years away. So yeah, that's my input for that.
Thank you so much, Morgan. I think that's very nicely, and you have explained that. And frankly, future is totally unknown. But still, I think we could see few things out there. But let's see how it evolves. So thank you so much for answering.